Today I'm here with Alex Barnes of Rainier Mobile Repair in Carbonado, Washington. We're looking at a dump truck owned by Legend Development. The complaint on the truck is that the engine brake isn't working quite right. The three positions on the switch in the cab are off, half on, and all on. This refers to either half of the cylinders doing braking or all of the cylinders. The driver's complaint is that only half of the cylinders are working. The Jake brakes are electrically operated by applying system voltage from the switch through two wires that attach to spade connectors on the Jake covers on the top of the engine. To check the operator's complaint, Alex is going to use a power probe, pulling power from the alternator and applying it to each connector on the engine. After starting the engine, Alex will remove the truck wires from the connections. He'll apply 12 volts of power to each connection. You can hear the brake engage when he touches the probe to the front head connector. But nothing happens when the probe is touched to the rear head, which indicates the problem is there. The valve covers are removed for access to the solenoid coils for the Jakes. A multimeter set on ohms function is used to check for the electrical connection to the coil. He's checked from the spade connector to the end of the wire first and there was no resistance. So then he checked from the coil to the engine part and that shows that there's no resistance there also. So now he's going to go from the connector on the coil to the engine, and this shows that there is a lot of resistance. So the meter's showing that high resistance there. So as a final check, he's going to check from the coil itself to the screw or the end of the wire and see if that resistance is between the end of the wire and the coil itself. And that's what it shows. We knew the front head coil was working, so we decided to test it to see what it should look like and compare that with the rear head. And this one shows very little resistance, so we figured the coil on the rear one was bad. Alex obtained a new coil and valve and decided to test it before installing it in the engine. The ohm meter was used again and showed the connection was good all the way through the valve. The old coil and valve were removed from the engine. There's a little green seal on the bottom of the cavity that the valve fits in, and so we got a new one with that and went ahead and installed it. But then we had to look in there and make sure that it was sitting flat on the bottom of the cavity. The new valve was installed and torqued to the specification stamped into the top of the new valve. Alex put a new connector on the end of the wire that had an eyelet instead of a spade connection, and then he attached it with the screw to the coil. Before going any further, he tested the connection with the ohm meter again. This time the connection showed good from the spade connection clear to the engine head, so the valve cover was set back on top. And he tested the operation by applying system voltage to the spade on the outside of the valve cover again. This time it worked on both. To review what Alex did, he confirmed the problem by applying power to the components to see if they worked. An ohm meter was used to confirm the problem component. A new component was obtained and tested before installation. It was installed and the function tested again to make sure the problem was fixed. The only thing not shown here was test driving the truck as a last test to ensure the engine brake worked.